Yeah.
Okay. So we had been discussing how there are that existence is in the form of coexistence, that is units, nature that is in the form of units is saturated in this omnipotence, this space, which is omnipresent. And that this saturation of nature in potence manifests itself in the form of four orders. These are the material order, plant order, biological order, animal order, and the knowledge order. And of these, each of the order has its own principle of being systematized. So the material order is uh, systematic, that is with definite behavior, definite conduct on the basis of its configuration. So we say it has configurational concordance. Then the biological order is systematized or has definite conduct based on its um, seed, basically. So we call it seed concordance. Then the animal order has its definite conduct based on its lineage. We call it lineage concordance. And the human order has a definite conduct and or can have a definite conduct based on its sanskar or understanding, or sanskar are deeply held beliefs. And basically when we have this orderly behavior or orderly conduct as humans, that is what we call humane behavior. And when we have conduct which is not orderly, that is what is called inhumane behavior. And so then we also go about understanding, okay, what is orderly behavior in humans and what is disorderly behavior. But what we realize is that our basis for behaving in an orderly manner, in a harmonious manner, is nothing but our sanskars or our deeply rooted acceptances that correspond to reality, which means that our systematized behavior can only emerge out of our understanding of reality. And that this understanding, there are three things that we must understand. We must understand what existence is, we must understand what we are, and we must understand then what humane conduct is. And then only can we behave in an orderly manner. Then only can we behave in a harmonious manner. So we were going about understanding these things. And then he was also talking about, there was one conversation on it is only understanding that flows through tradition. That is, it is only understanding that that can be passed on from generation to generation, getting accepted as it is, getting embodied as it is, and getting passed on as it is. And that itself is also the evidence of understanding. If I have understood something, the evidence for that will be that I will be able to explain it to you. And actually, what is the evidence that you have understood it? That evidence would be when you are able to explain it to the third person. So the evidence of my understanding is when my student is able to help their student understand. So therefore, it is only understanding that gets passed on in tradition. And this getting passed on itself is the evidence that there was any understanding to begin with. So this is one conversation that had arisen. And if you have any thoughts or questions regarding that, we can take that on right now and then move ahead.
No, this is good. Only thought is so that every time he has been talking about how you not evidencing samaj. So evidencing samaj is if you're able to uh, make someone else understand, then that's how you evidence understanding, and then that person is also able to do. So that's how you know that understanding has happened.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how what I was saying. No?
yeah. That's yeah, one angle of it. There'll be other angles of looking at evidence that will come up also. How evidence is only in living and only in living in the tradition. So it's essentially how you have understood is you will be able to express it both at the level of words as well as at the level of behavior. And both, if it's true understanding, then both your words and your behavior will be acceptable to the next generation. And then if they have understood it, that will be embodied in them, and that both their thought as well as their behavior will be acceptable to the next generation after that. So we had discussed it a little bit earlier also, now how there is logic, the level of logic as well as the behavioral level. So we are expressing our existential understanding both at the level of logic, that is words and articulation, as well as at the level of our behavior and our conduct. So both of these have to get passed on from generation to generation.
And these become sanskars.
Yeah, so sanskars are whatever gets deeply accepted based on our understanding. So you know how he is talking about there are four things. There is so in all the rest of nature, there is only recognition and response. You know, everything is recognizing and responding to patterns. Whereas in humans, there is understanding, acceptance, recognition, and response. So understanding is knowledge and experience. But this acceptance is what is sanskar. But he's saying this acceptance also in humans can only happen based on understanding. So sanskar is this level of acceptance actually based on understanding.
Also, in traditional way, they say sanskar is what you carry from your previous births. Like Jeevan in another birth had some, in another body had some experiences, the memory stays, and it comes down to this body too. So does Baba also thinks that way?
So I think what tradition is talking about is slightly different, but maybe you can correlate it because here he's saying that knowledge, once you've understood or once you've experienced reality as it is, knowledge does not go away. So your understanding will carry forward. And because you've understood, your acceptances are also carrying forward. So in that way, you can say that maybe that's why he's placed the word sanskar here, because it does get carried forward even to your next journey.
But was he shy of saying these things like Pichle Janam?
No, he wasn't. It'll come later on as well. It'll come up.
Okay.
Yeah. I am a little wary of doing it because I have no concrete basis. I don't understand what happens after death and all that. I have no basis. He still had some basis, but I feel a bit shy of going into that realm. So, okay, so I'll just wait till he brings it up. All right, I'll just share this. Wait a minute.
ना समझती ना समझी बहता नहीं है। ये बात अपने को पता लगता है। इसी के साथ यह भी अपने को दूसरा भाग भी समझ में आता है, ना समझी को बहाने की क्रम में पीढ़ी से पीढ़ी कुंठित होना ही है। पीढ़ी से पीढ़ी कहीं ना कहीं कुंठित होकर के तो कहीं ना कहीं असंतुष्टि की दलदल में आना ही है। चाहे आप हो, मैं हो, हमारा पिताजी हो, कोई भी हो, हालत ये की।
I think we've done this, but no harm starting a little earlier. He says that it is understanding that flows from generation to generation, and delusion or lack of understanding does not flow from generation to generation. And it is another thing that we can see is that when we try to force delusions to flow to be passed down from one generation to another, it necessarily causes frustration and angst. And this is something that has been experienced by all of us through generations. I think something like our parents, ourselves, we all find.
तो कहीं ना कहीं असंतुष्टि की दलदल में आना ही है। पीढ़ी से पीढ़ी कहीं ना कहीं कुंठित होकर के तो कहीं ना कहीं असंतुष्टि की दलदल में आना ही है।
So in this way, from generation to generation, when we are trying to pass down delusions, in some way or the other, we will land up in this swamp or this bog of dissatisfaction.
चाहे आप हो, मैं हो, हमारा पिताजी हो, कोई भी हो, हालत ये की है।
Whether it's you or me or someone else or my father, the state is the same.
यदि ये समझ में आता है तो और भी सुदृढ़ होता है। समझदारी की आवश्यकता कितना है।
And if we understand this, it becomes even firmer in ourselves just how important understanding is, just how necessary understanding is.
समझदारी ही एकमात्र वस्तु है जो कि आगे पीढ़ी को अर्पित होता है।
Understanding is that one and only thing that can get dedicated and that can get passed on to the next generation.
और उसमें क्या विविधता नहीं होता है? होता है। क्या बात विविधता होता है? और प्रस्तुति में विविधता होता है।
And does this have no diversity in it? No, there is diversity in it. What is it that is diverse? There is diversity in presentation.
हम एक गणित को एक
Even delusion, what one says is delusion, and for another person that may be the understanding.
So what he's calling understanding is seeing reality as it is. So when you see reality as it is, it will be understanding for you. And when someone else sees reality as it is, it will be their understanding. And of course, because reality is one and the same, both of you will have seen the same thing. So understanding is something which is objective. When you understand it, when I understand it, when a third person understands it, it'll all be the same thing. So it is
But
not that
again,
my understanding is delusion for you. Both of our understandings will be the same when both of us understand.
until anyone disagrees to you on this planet, means it's not an understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if one person disagrees.
No, of course, there can be a situation where someone is disagreeing with something that is true. Say, there were people who disagreed with the fact that the Earth revolved around the sun, but that doesn't change the fact that the Earth revolves around the sun. And eventually, even those who disagreed, that disagreement does not last 2 generations, because whatever that disagreement may be to the truth, whatever the alternate proposal may be, which is not corresponding to the truth, that does not satisfy anyone. That is not livable, and therefore it fizzles out eventually, sooner or later.
Like you said, till we thought the earth was flat, it passed on generation to generation. No one questioned it, nothing. When someone came up with something, then the questioning happened.
No, but why did someone come up with something? Because what they were observing did not satisfy them. And in fact, it wasn't just one person. Across the globe, there were several people who had recognized that the earth is not flat. And a lot of people had been questioning it. But it takes time for that to come into education. Insight can happen, but for it to come into education and then the general populace, that needs another kind of effort and movement.
Okay. Thanks.
2 मिनट में हम ठीक करता हूँ, आप जो है ना 1 मिनट में दो को ठीक कर देते हो.
Right, so that diversity in presentation. So, for instance, if we take a maths problem, maybe it takes me 1 minute to solve one problem, and you take 1 minute to solve 2 problems.
ये विविधता आती है.
This is the kind of diversity that appears.
सही करने की गति और प्रखर होता जाता है.
The speed of doing what is right increases.
सही करने की तरीका और प्रखर होता जाता है.
The way of doing what is right improves.
सही करने की सार्थकता और सुलभ होता जाता है.
The meaningfulness of doing the right thing becomes more and more meaningful, accessible.
क्या बात है.
How wonderful.
ये छोटा सा काम, ये
This small task,
मैं समझता हूँ सर्वमानव के लिए इसकी आवश्यकता है. इसलिए समझदारी से संपन्न मानव परंपरा ही सही ढंग से परंपरा को और आगे पीढ़ी को अपने समझदारी को अर्पित कर स्वयं संतुष्ट हो सकता है और आगे पीढ़ी संतुष्ट होता ही है.
So this, I believe, is the need for all of humanity, and that is why it is a knowledgeable tradition that is capable of being content or satisfied in itself and capable of passing on this contentment also to the next generation.
कि समाधान से सब संतुष्ट होना है,
Because with resolution, everyone will be satisfied.
समाधान ही समझदारी किसे ही समाधान होना है, और समझदारी ना होने से समस्या होना ही होना।
And it is only through understanding that resolution will happen. And when there is no understanding, or when there is delusion, there is bound to be problems. Problems are the opposite of resolution.
ये कुल मिलाकर के मतलब निकलता है।
Altogether, this is the meaning that comes out.
इस विधि से हम यहाँ पहुँचते हैं समझदारी की आवश्यकता और बलवती होने की जगह में आ गए।
In this way, we reach this point where the need or necessity of understanding becomes stronger.
पहला समझदारी तो यही है, जीवन स्वरूप। जीवन स्वरूप एक गठनपूर्ण परमाणु है, ठीक है।
So the first understanding is this, the nature of the Jeevan. So the Jeevan is a configurationally complete atom. All right?
तो जिसमें प्रस्थापन विस्थापन क्रिया समाप्त हो गई है। समाप्त होने के बाद वो गठनपूर्ण परमाणु कहलाया, नाम हुआ।
In which the process of fission and fusion have ended, and upon it ending, it has been given the name, it has been considered to be configurationally complete.
और गठनपूर्ण परमाणु में चैतन्य प्रवृत्ति बन गई। चैतन्य
And within this configurationally complete atom, this conscious nature or this conscious tendency arose.
प्रवृत्ति का मतलब भी है संवेदनाओं को प्रमाणित करना। संवेदनशीलता जो है सुस्पष्ट है।
And this conscious tendency itself means to evidence sensation. And
प्रमाणित करना। संवेदनशीलता जो है सुस्पष्ट है। शब्द स्पर्श रूप रस गंधेंद्रियों के रूप में संवेदनाओं को व्यक्त करना।
And sensations are already very clear, which is to what do we say? Shabda
स्पष्ट है। शब्द स्पर्श रूप रस गंधेंद्रियों के रूप में संवेदनाओं को व्यक्त करना।
To express one's sensations in the form of sound, smell, sight, taste, and feeling.
ये जीवावस्था में है आ चुकी।
And touch, which is already present within the animal order.
ज्ञानावस्था में मनुष्य संस्कार आनुषंगी इकाई होने के कारण संस्कार समझदारी ही होता है।
In the knowledge order, because humans are sanskar concordant entities, therefore
मनुष्य संस्कार आनुषंगी इकाई होने के कारण संस्कार समझदारी ही होता है। गलतियां कोई संस्कार होता नहीं।
Therefore, and these sanskars are nothing but understanding. No mistakes can be considered to be sanskar.
गलती को एक भी आदमी स्वीकारता नहीं है, किंतु फंसा जरूर रहता है।
Mistakes are not acceptable to any single person, although they do remain trapped in them.
बढ़िया, गलतियों को कोई आदमी स्वीकारता नहीं।
Excellent. No one accepts mistakes.
कोई भी आदमी से कितने भी हजार गलती किया हुआ आदमी हो, ऐसे लोगों से हम पूछा भी हो, वो कहते हैं गलती किसको स्वीकृत होता है।
Whoever it may be, even if they may have committed 1,000 mistakes, and I have even asked such people.
किया हुआ आदमी हो, ऐसे लोगों से हम पूछा भी हो, वो कहते हैं गलती किसको स्वीकृत होता है।
They say, who accepts mistakes? to whom are mistakes acceptable?
गलती करने वाले को स्वीकृत नहीं है तो किसको स्वीकृत होगा?
So if the person who is committing mistakes doesn't accept it, then who will it be acceptable to?
ऐसा वो खुद नहीं बोलते हैं।
This is something they say for themselves.
तो इन तमाम गवाहियों के साथ हमको यही निश्चय निकलता है, समझदारी ही परंपरा का गंगा है।
So, thanks to such testimonies, I come to only one nishchay, definite conclusion, that understanding is the Ganga of tradition, or understanding is the river of tradition. He's saying it's a metaphor.
और ना समझी ही है गंदी नाली।
And delusion is the dirty sewer,
जिसमें हम परेशान होते हैं। ठीक है,
in which we find ourselves to be troubled. Parishan, there must be a better word for parishan. No? Troubled is very light, it feels. Bothered, troubled. If you think of something, let me know.
ये कुल मिलाकर के अपने को हाथ लगने वाली बात यहाँ आता है।
So altogether, this is the point that we can really हाथ लगने वाली बात, something that we can actually note down or pin down for ourselves.
यहाँ से हम समझदारी के ओर जैसा ही हम समानता के ओर गए, समानता ही एक ध्रुव है। समानता के ध्रुव के बिना समझदारी टिकता नहीं।
And from here, for instance, we go towards from understanding, we go towards the notion of equality. Equality is an axis, without this axis of equality, understanding does not stick.
समानता का ध्रुव जीवन है।
And the axis or anchor, actually we can say equality is the anchor for understanding, and the anchor for equality is the Jeevan.
जीवन में गठन पूर्णता एक माने आयाम है।
The configuration and completeness in a Jeevan is one dimension.
दूसरा आयाम है अक्षय शक्ति। अक्षय शक्ति को अपने में जांचने की विधि मैंने जो अपनाया वो यही है, हम जितने भी कल्पना करता हूँ करने।
The second dimension is inexhaustible force, and the way to verify or check this inexhaustible force in oneself that I have adopted for myself is that all this imagination of mine that I do
की बावजूद और कल्पना वो यही है, हम जितने भी कल्पना करता हूँ करने की बावजूद और कल्पना करने की ताकत बनाई रहता है।
that no matter how much I imagine, there is always room for more imagination within me. There's always capacity for more imagination.
मैं जितने भी आशा करता हूँ उससे अधिक आशा करने की ताकत बनाए रहता है।
No matter how much I hope, there is always more energy for me to hope further still.
हम जितने भी विचार करता हूँ उससे अधिक विचार करने की ताकत बना रहता है।
No matter how much I think, there is always more energy for me to think further still.
जितना हम इच्छा करता हूँ इच्छा से अधिक और इच्छा करने की मैंने ताकत बना रहता है।
And no matter how much I desire, there is always more energy left for me to desire some more.
इसी प्रकार जितने भी हम संकल्प करता हूँ और संकल्प करने की ताकत रहता ही है।
And in the same way, no matter how much resolve I may have, there is always energy to have some more resolve.
जितने भी हम प्रमाणित होता जाता हूँ और प्रमाणित करने का ताकत मुझ में बना ही है.
And no matter how much I go about evidencing myself or authenticating myself, there is always more energy in me to authenticate or evidence some more.
इस ढंग से जीवन की अक्षयता को मैंने पहचाना.
In this way, I have recognized the inexhaustibility of the Jeevan.
जीवन की अक्षयता को पहचान जीवन अक्षय होने के लिए और परिणामशीलता मुक्त हुए बिना हो नहीं सकती. ये तर्क विधि से जीवन की गठन पूर्णता को स्वीकारने की बात बनता है.
And this inexhaustibility of the Jeevan is not possible without this, what did he say? Something with Parinam.
और परिणामशीलता मुक्त हुए बिना हो नहीं सकती.
Without being freed from Parinamshilta is resultingness. This is, I think,
Oriented? No,
huh?
not result oriented, no?
Not result oriented. So this is a vocabulary that has not been really explained very much yet. So Parinamshilta, when he says Parinam or result or consequence here, he is talking about the result of any activity. So in the natural world, other than the Jeevan, whenever there is any activity, it leads to a different sort of result. And every kind of result is a new configuration, whether that configuration is at the subatomic level, atomic level, or the molecular level. Every change or every result is a configurational change, right? So whether chemical bonds are changing or physical orientations are changing, whatever that may be. So that process or this tendency to go from one result to another result to another result of configuration is what he is calling Parinamshilta. That is resultingness. Wait, I had translated this into something at one point. Resultancy or resultingness or something like that, you can call it.
Basically, you're trying to find like how result is a noun, then that verb of result, how happiness and happy, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So change, so if Parinam is change, actually literally Parinam means result, but since all it changes that have a result or results are changes of configuration. So we can say that this changeability, but we have to remember that this is a change in configuration, physical change. Yeah, so we can say in order to be inexhaustible, the Jeevan would have to be freed from changeability. So therefore it is configurationally complete and permanent.
Say that again.
So
This last bit. I mean, making me understand this last bit. In the order for Jeevan to be free of what?
I'll just play the Hindi again and do the translation again now that I have the word.
जीवन और प्रमाणित करने का ताकत मुझ में बना ही है. इस ढंग से जीवन की अक्षयता को मैंने पहचाना. जीवन की अक्षयता को पहचान जीवन अक्षय होने के लिए और परिणामशीलता मुक्त हुए बिना हो नहीं सकती.
In order for the Jeevan to be inexhaustible, it is not possible. That is not possible without it being freed from changeability. So the Jeevan can only become inexhaustible if it is no longer changeable.
Needs explanation. I can let it go,
No.
but I've not understood.
So if it's changing, if
With
it's
a real example, not with some.
you want to understand why he's saying this, but do you understand the words right now? Because he's going to explain it going further.
Vaguely.
Okay. So what he's basically just stated as of now, he stated the rule, now he's going to show the derivation. He stated that if something is changeable, then it cannot be inexhaustible. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
Now he's going to say why.
ये तर्क विधि से जीवन की गठन पूर्णता को स्वीकारने की बात बनता है.
This is the logical way of accepting the configurational completeness of the Jeevan. So this can form the logical basis of accepting the configurational completeness of the Jeevan.
What can?
जज
This can, what can?
This can, the fact that what we are starting with, our observation is that the powers or the forces of the Jeevan are inexhaustible. That is an observed fact. If it is inexhaustible, it would necessarily have to be free of change. That is the derivation, the logical derivation. And if it is free of change, that means it is configurationally complete. That means its configuration, because free of change means its configuration is no longer changing. So that would mean that it has to be configurationally complete, or a completely stable atom that never undergoes any change in configuration. So this observation leads to this logical derivation of the configurational completeness of the Jeevan. That's what he's saying. I'll just see
Okay.
if he explains it
Okay,
any
yeah.
further. Otherwise, if you
Okay.
have any doubts, I'll explain.
जांच विधि से अक्षय शक्ति समझ में आता है की बात बनता है. जांच विधि से अक्षय शक्ति समझ में आता है.
And using the method of Janch Vidhi, I think testing or verification is not the best word here. Just examination. Yeah. By way of examination, we can see that there is inexhaustible force.
अक्षय बल भी समझ में आता है.
And we can, in the same way, we can also understand the inexhaustible power.
अक्षय बल में ये होती है जो जैसा हम जितने भी आशा किया.
Please make the connection again. So because of what we can see, it's inexhaustible.
So he had said, no, that no matter how much I hope,
Ah,
so these were the forces. So there are the forces and then there are the powers. And he said, first we went through all the forces. No matter how much I hope, there is always room for further hoping. No matter how much I think, there is always room for further thinking. No matter how much I desire, always room for further desiring. Similarly with resolve and with evidencing. Always, no matter how much we do it, we can always do more. That means that it is inexhaustible. And then he's saying, similarly, you can look at the powers. The powers are also inexhaustible. In that, now he's going to go through the whole, probably the whole list again, on this side.
में ये होती है जो जैसा हम जितने भी आशा किया उसका फलन से हम संतुष्ट हुए असंतुष्ट हुए ये हमको पता लगता है.
So now he's demonstrating the inexhaustible power. So he said, now, whatever hope we did, as a consequence of that hope, whether we were satisfied or dissatisfied, this we can tell.
मैं इसको जानता हूँ हम संतुष्ट हुए या नहीं संतुष्ट हुए. संतुष्टि हमारा वांछित वस्तु है. संतुष्टि नहीं होने पर पुनः हम प्रयत्न करता हूँ शोधता हूँ कैसा आशा करें जिससे हम संतुष्ट हो जाएं.
So this I know, that whether we have been satisfied or dissatisfied, satisfaction is our desirable entity or what we desire. Vanchit, desire is not ichha here. Vanchit is, it means desirable only, but not in the terms of imagination. So, satisfaction, so so you hope for something and as a result, there's something happens and then you check within yourself. Was I satisfied? What was I not satisfied? Satisfied means we got what we had wanted, what we had hoped for, what we had desired. Vanchit, not ichhit. And if what what we got was not up to our satisfaction, was not what we had hoped for, then again we go about attempting further different kinds of hope. We think about it some more. We think about how we should be hoping now so that we can get the result that matches our original hopes, and so that we can feel satisfied.
ये क्रम चलता है। चलते चलते ये पता लगा कि जितने भी हम तुलन करता हूँ वो तुलन में भी हमारा संतुष्टि हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, ये हम जांचता ही हूँ।
So this process is ongoing, and as this process goes on, even within our weighing, which is the second power, we can recognize that whether that weighing was satisfactory or dissatisfactory is something that I constantly check, constantly imagine, examine.
वो तुलन में भी हमारा संतुष्टि हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, ये हम जांचता ही हूँ। साक्षात्कार कितने भी किया, जो जिसको हम मूल्य समझा, संबंध समझा, वो समझा, ये समझा, इसको हम साक्षात्कार करता ही हूँ, उसमें संतुष्टि मिला कि नहीं मिला।
So then after weighing, the next power is actually, what did I call it? Sakshatkar, witnessing. Yeah.
Sakshat is witness only.
So in my witnessing also, whether I've witnessed values or relationships, this or that, whatever I may have witnessed, I always examine and check whether this was satisfactory or dissatisfactory.
और उसके बाद हम करता ही हूँ, उसमें संतुष्टि मिला कि नहीं मिला। और उसके बाद हम ये भी करता हूँ, हमको वाकई में ये मूल्य बोध हुआ कि नहीं, संबंध बोध हुआ कि नहीं, वस्तु बोध हुआ कि नहीं।
And after that, I also do this. I check whether I actually comprehended values, whether I actually comprehended relationships.
हमको वाकई में ये मूल्य बोध हुआ कि नहीं, संबंध बोध हुआ कि नहीं, वस्तु बोध हुआ कि नहीं, अस्तित्व बोध हुआ कि नहीं, इसको हम जांचता ही रहता हूँ।
Whether I comprehended values, relationships, whether I actually comprehended that entity, whether I actually comprehended existence. So this I constantly keep examining.
जांचने पर पता लगता है, हम जांचता हूँ तो सही निकलता है, कौन सा तृप्ति मिलती है।
And when I examine and it turns out to be accurate, satisfactory, that does lead to fulfillment. That leads to a sense of fulfillment.
Sister, what is accurate?
जो जांचा, हाँ, कि मैंने जो जांचा, whatever I'm checking, whether I actually comprehended values, whether I actually comprehended relationships, etc. When I go about examining whether this actually was comprehended, and that examination leads to the answer that yes, it was actually comprehended, that leads to a sense of fulfillment.
And what does he mean by comprehending a relationship? Like he said, na, vastu comprehend, bodh, vastu bodh.
Yeah. So this is the activity called comprehension. And it's not been described in full detail yet. There's a difference between witnessing and comprehending. So comprehension is when you recognize an entity in its true nature. So when you see its true nature and its true also its dharma, that is when you call it comprehension. And what that means is you see how it fits with all the other pieces as well. So actually, when you're comprehending something, it's like this huge picture you're forming in which you see the true place of each entity. So what are relationships? Why are relationships? What are values? Why are values? All of that is happening in your comprehension. So that's what he's talking about.
Understood. To an extent, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
understanding property of something clearly, that in all the aspects of something properly. Like if I look at fire, then if I understand that its main nature is warmth, heat, it can, then you have comprehended it completely. And then similarly, if you look at someone and you understand that person fully without any subjective thing, more objectively, he means like right? Without
Well,
bias in a way, like objectively what it is. There's
yeah,
no
yeah. Objectively is right, in the sense that it is the truth of that person. Whereas it is also subjective. Subjective just means what you see personally for yourself. But here, subjective doesn't have to also be varying. Like subjective will match the objective if you've understood. So in that way, I won't say not subjective, but it is objective. Um, but yeah, so there is, I'm not sure if this was covered in the workshop that we were in, I can't remember. And I don't think it has been covered as yet over here. But there's a difference between property and nature. So whenever you go about understanding the four orders, it gets divided into form, property, nature, and dharma. Or dharma can be ordering principle. And that is the four levels at which any entity can be understood. So properties can be recognized even before comprehension, can be understood, can be recognized at the level of thought and imagination, visualization. But this nature and ordering principle, that is something which is abstract. Properties are also mechanical. So for instance, you look at a dog. When you go about understanding, say, your pet dog, you will see, okay, so this is what he looks like. This is what his properties are. Properties is how he interacts with, say, new people, how he interacts with you. What are those patterns of behavior? That's a mechanical pattern that you observe. But when you start looking at his swabhav, his nature, which is the third level, the nature of dogs can be, of animals, sorry, can be, it's divided into krur and akrur. So the basic nature of animals is between krur and akrur, which is cruel, and not cruel is not the right word. It just sounds better and similar also, but it's more like
violent.
aggressive and non-aggressive. Yeah, aggressive and passive. So that is the basic nature of animals, the animal order. So within that, you can recognize what your particular pet dog is like. Is he more aggressive? Is he less aggressive? What is his overall nature? And this overall nature is understood based on the different properties you have observed. Okay, with this person, he's like this. With this person, he behaves like this. At this time of day, he's like that. All of these are properties. But when you look at all the properties as a whole, the principle you derive is, oh, overall, he is maybe say medium aggressive or not so aggressive, passive, whatever it may be. That is for you to recognize and understand. So that is the nature. And then there is even further abstraction to understanding any entity or comprehending any entity, which is its basic ordering principle, which is the same for all animals, all dogs, say, which is that all dogs, their dharma or their ordering principle is their hope to live, their will to live. So, जीने की आशा. So, ऐसे, this has not been covered as yet, but just to give a difference, the difference between comprehension. I think you're muted.
Sorry. You said hope to live, then fourth was hope to live. No abstraction. Then nature was third. What was the second one?
Property.
Properties of them, krur, akrur.
No, that was
No,
nature.
that's nature. Okay.
Properties.
Huh.
Properties is how they're behaving in particular situations and patterns of
More,
behavior, mechanical.
more mechanical. And first is
Form,
there
appearance.
form, mechanical properties, then comes nature. And as you move further, the commonality increases.
Yeah, across particular entities. So every single Labrador will look very different, like will look distinctively different from other Labradors. But their properties will be a lot more similar, and their nature will be definitely a lot more similar. And then finally, dharma or ordering principle is common to all animals, forget dogs. So yeah, so comprehension is when you see these last two also of any entity. So we've done a lot of recognition up till property. Even when we study science, we see the property, the function, and what was it in biology we used to study? The structure and function. So that's the form and property. Whereas what we also need to understand is its nature, and that nature gives us an indication as to its role. And then, of course, the dharma. So that happens in comprehension.
यदि कहीं भी लगता है यह इस जगह को जांचा नहीं था, उसको जांचने पर सही होता है। भी लगता है पर पता लगता है हम जांचता हूं तो सही निकलता है, कौन सा तृप्ति मिलती है। यदि कहीं भी लगता है यह इस जगह को जांचा नहीं था, उसको जांचने पर सही होता है। इस ढंग से हम और
And if ever I find that this area I had not examined earlier, so upon examination, it becomes all right, or it turns out to be okay. So he's saying this process of constant examination of satisfying or dissatisfying starts out with hope to even to weighing, then even for it applies even to our witnessing and even to our comprehension. We are constantly examining in these processes whether we were satisfied or dissatisfied. First, we are examining it at one level, just at the level of tasting, taste satisfactory, taste dissatisfactory, or compares, weighs satisfactorily, weighs dissatisfactorily. Then witnessing satisfactorily or witnessing dissatisfactorily. Comprehension also we are examining whether it was actually comprehended, which is what satisfactory comprehension is, or not actually comprehended, which is what dissatisfactory comprehension is. So he's saying, if upon examination we found, oh, I didn't actually examine this properly, I didn't actually comprehend this properly, upon having recognized it, then I go about doing it and it becomes comprehended, then it becomes fixed.
अनुभव अनुभव का होता है। इस ढंग से हम और अनुभव अनुभव का मतलब भी होता है जो कि अस्तित्व में जैसा अस्तित्व जैसा है, अस्तित्व में जो वस्तु जैसा है उसको वैसे ही समझने वाली बात का नाम है अनुभव।
Then there is anubhav, or then there is experience. And experience is itself the name given to the process of seeing existence as it is, and or seeing every entity in existence as it is.
जो वस्तु जैसा है उसको वैसे ही समझने वाली बात का नाम है अनुभव। ये बात हमको समझ में आया कि नहीं? पदार्थावस्था समझ में आया कि नहीं? इसको जांचता हूं तो पता लगता है समझ में आया है।
Whether so, the process of understanding every entity as it is, that itself is called experience. And this point, have I understood or not? Whether I have understood material order or not, when I go about examining this, I find
पदार्थावस्था समझ में आया कि नहीं? इसको जांचता हूं तो पता लगता है समझ में आया है।
when I examine this, I find out that I did understand it.
प्राणावस्था समझ में आया कि नहीं? पता लगता है समझ में आया।
Whether I understood the biological order or not, I examine it and I find that I did understand it.
जीवावस्था समझ में आया कि नहीं? पता लगता है समझ में आया।
Did I understand the animal order or not? I find that I did understand it.
और उसी प्रकार ज्ञानावस्था समझ में आया कि नहीं? आया। ये समझदारी का आधार बनी।
And in the same way, whether I understood the knowledge order or not, I find that I did. And this forms the basis of understanding. Oh, hello. Hello, Pavan Bhaiya. Okay. I think they've not joined for you.
अब इसको समझदारी हमको समझ में आ गई।
Hello.
I was saying it's 7:31.
Okay, yes. Let's pause here then. All right. Hello, Pavan Bhaiya. We were just ending because it's 7:30. So if you would like to say hello and bye. Oh, okay. All right. ठीक है. Okay then. हाँ.
One thing I just wanted to say, or I can say tomorrow also, if we want to close today, or I'll just leave with the thought and we can have a discussion tomorrow if there's a need. Manna, he was saying, na, like everything right now also we are doing is more manna, right? Jaise he's saying that Jeevan is a Gathan Poon Parmanu, complete octet or whatever. And that's we are what we don't know it. We are
Believing.
believing it, right? So all this journeys of believing, and then if you're more curious, you can go to the process of slowly more actually knowing. But right now we are not knowing, you're only believing. Only thing is trust from the source, that we trust this person, that if he's saying, he knows, and then we are believing.
Right. Yeah, that's how it is. There's a difference in believing also. There's a difference between faith and hypothesis. So faith ends at that. Okay, I have faith in it and this is where I want it to end. Whereas a
Mm.
hypothesis is, you of course start with some belief, but the hypothesis assumes that you're going to go about examining it and verifying it. So
Mm.
we can say that this is a hypothesis we've chosen for ourselves.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay. Bye.
It's
Huh.
matlab it's we can't. But he's saying, it is Ghatampur. We might not have. We don't know. Maybe,
Yeah.
probably, obviously,
Um,
but he knows.
yeah. He's saying
So
I
for
saw
him,
this. Yeah. For him,
so
it's
for
not
him,
this.
it's not speculative. No, for us, it's like.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Mm.
him,
So
it's not a
what we should
hypothesis.
be. So do I believe him or do I have faith in him?
So, see, having faith, I find, and he's also proposing, and we can check in ourselves. Faith is dissatisfying. It is not enough to have faith because because we don't see it for ourselves. It becomes very unidimensional. You can't function as easily with faith as you do when you understand something. Like, you can have a
I've
road
not
planning.
understood anything, suppose, on Jeevan, but I want to start with the basis of that I believe.
Hmm.
What he's saying is true.
Hmm.
Because he said it so clearly. मैं सच्ची बोल रहा हूँ, मैंने देखा है, and so I
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
And because I know my okay, let's put it, my intuitively I believe it, okay?
Right. Right.
So then because I believe it, that is what he's saying is true, I'm going through this process of trying to also evidence it.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. But till for some time faith is needed, I can argue on every point.
Right.
If I don't want to believe or I can argue at every point. Anybody can. How do you
Right.
know? How do you know? Kind of thing. So
Mm.
belief is definitely needed, no? In this, anything that is not visible from our indriyas and not taught to us, or with the mind and everything. Everything beyond that is starts with the belief.
Yeah.
For somebody who's met him can say, and who's lived with him can say, I know because I've seen him. But people like us, like me, for example, I've not met him, I can say intuitively or somehow I believe he was not a fraud. So what he's saying is the truth.
But I have something to say here. I feel the hypothesis or whatever, there is belief, absolutely. But
Hmm.
some to certain extent, certain percentage of it is very in our access to test it. And like if there's someone whose argument, how belief will get built also is that if he says 100 things, I think just for the sake of random number, then at least 30-40 things are something which we can actually test. It is in our capability to test it. And if all of them proves right when we test it, what he said, then that belief gets stronger, that if there are other 15 things, 20 things which I'm not able to test, for example, there is a possibility that I will never see Gathan Poon Parmanu in our lifetime. But then, because other 50 things he said were going right on my tests when I was able to test them, then that thought becomes stronger, that I don't know this Gathan Poon Parmanu, but there's a stronger belief that there's a stronger possibility that this is true
Yeah.
because other 50
Yeah.
things were true.
Yeah,
Right.
that's also one way. And what you're saying, testing, even before testing, much of it, that obviously is talking sense.
Hmm.
That's what,
And he's
because we have
putting it,
tested it in some way, at some
huh,
level, we have tested it.
huh. And we also know that obviously, and it's the way it is we're going, he's gone around bit by bit and things. So, and Okay. So belief is needed. You
Of
have to
course, we start
start
with
with
that
some
only.
believing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just like
It's not- yeah. We have only two capacities. One is belief and one is understanding. So since we don't have understanding, belief is only the only thing we have. But we have the possibility of verifying our beliefs and turning it into understanding. Like
correct.
like with children, we all start out with so many beliefs, and as we grow older, we start realizing it for ourselves. Okay, आग में हाथ डालने से हाथ जलता है, you know. Then
Yeah.
we see it for
Yeah.
ourselves also when we test it out in whatever way.
And that's a very beautiful example. In general, like manna has to be evidenced 3-4 times before you even trust your parents. For example, आग में हाथ जलता है, and there are 10 other things which our parents tell us will happen. But unless they happen, they don't really sit. Like at least 3-4 things happen, then they sit ki keh rahe hain, that means it might happen. Like once you have a electricity shock, you're sure that there's a shock. So you will be 10 times more careful than someone telling you, don't do this, this will harm you.
I think that's
Yeah.
a factor of age, because little children, absolutely little children, they start out with blind faith. But then after an age, it doesn't last. They start testing. They want to understand and see for themselves. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. They have to start with faith. They cannot reason even
Yeah.
a
And
bit.
that's why if you lie to children, then you are playing with their faith. Like you're playing with their belief system only, because it will be confused then that whether to have
Yeah.
faith or not, whether to believe somebody or not. Then they will try.
And that's why it shakes the child up, no? Because he's starting out with such pure faith that he actually needs to turn into confidence and understanding. But since that faith is getting polluted with these silly lies, then ab uske paas what he has, the base that he has to work with is only polluted. So of course he'll feel shaken up.
Yeah. Yes.
Natural process hai to go from belief to understanding.
Yeah.
So when mother is feeding a child and see, there's a crow there, see, there's a dog coming, and he knows there's no, then he sees there's no dog comes and she's being fed off. I'm just making a very random example.
Oh yeah.
So that also, but then at some stage he knows his mother's feeding him, I guess. I don't know. What does the child take that as?
No,
Even
I
that.
really feel that it does affect children in these situations. They start realizing that there is some reality, that the stuff that comes out of our parents' mouth is not always the truth. So the
Some
concept,
manipulation is there, okay.
so the concept of manipulation gets embedded, that it is natural or okay to manipulate.
Then they don't trust also, na, how children don't agree that she's like, trust their mothers that no, you have to
Yeah.
prove.
Yeah. And then they also become very good at manipulating themselves, you know.
Yeah.
Children are
Right.
very good at it also.
Right.
Yeah,
I've
come.
seen it.
Yeah. So they pick from us only, no? Like if
Yeah.
we as parents are manipulating them, then they pick it. But if there's no manipulation in our
Conduct.
behavior with them, in our conduct with them, then my hope is that they will also not learn manipulation.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
Because you see,
But
all children manipulates very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
but then they have friends and all kinds of things, no? And teachers and
But what
outside world, chacha, chachi, and so many other people.
Yeah, that is definitely tricky. But I think if you have a strong base within your immediate family where you are not getting manipulated, I think what happens in the child is they become confident that we can live life without manipulation. So then when they come across people manipulating, they'll be like, why are they doing this? Ye kyun ho raha hai? You know, they can sense that this is not right because it has not become normalized for them. It's much easier then. When you become used to the right, then it's easier to pick up कि अच्छा ये तो मेरे को तंग कर रहा है, this is also wrong.
लाइट तो लगा ले जरा तो लाइट लगा ले
Okay, very nice. We'll continue tomorrow.
Yes. No,
Oh, no, tomorrow is Wednesday.
not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, no, Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
See you. Bye.